Hi, my name is Zach Silverswag, and welcome to another edition of our Tiny Talk. Today, we have a really great privilege of being joined by Dr. David Scher. David is one of the 100 most cited authors in all of education research. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I like to start off by asking people what they're reading.
This is going to sound so nerdy, but I'll be honest, my favorite book, at least in the last decade, was Peter Daniels' The World's Writing Systems. And that's like a catalog of all the different orthographies, all different scripts around the world. I like reading thrillers too, but I don't get enough time for reading, and I don't think kids get enough time for reading.
Well, your work is helping a lot of kids learn to read. So, even if you don't get to enjoy those books yourself through your work, there's millions of readers across the world that are turning pages. Can you give us your perspective on how unique is English and what that means in terms of the systems that we use to teach it?
English is an easy language to learn to speak, but it's a horrendously difficult language to learn to read and to spell. And we know that from a lot of really well-controlled, good scientific research. I think one of the most important studies was a comparison of 13 different countries in Europe, where they compared English to French and Danish and Dutch and Hungarian and a whole lot of orthographies. They looked at the children's reading accuracy at the end of the first year of schooling, and just about everywhere, kids are getting 80, 90, 80% correct. And this was the big bombshell about this research, all these other countries are right up there. Kids can read just about anything. And then English, wow, bang, 30%. They were so far below every other country in this study. We now have that data. We've had many other studies since that show that English is so far behind every other normal orthography. That data is not just to do with the way we teach the English language. It's not to do with the schools and how they're funded. It's to do with the orthography. When you look at all this data, collectively, the data are absolutely firm as a rock. We have an incredibly complex orthography, makes it hard for teachers, makes it hard for the kids, and we know why. It's not just United States. There's 600 million native English speakers learning to read English. There are something like 900 million children, in addition to the 600 million native English speakers. They want to learn English just as much and even more than we do, because they see it as that's their pathway to success in the world.
So that's 1.5 billion people trying to learn this language, and it is super challenging for all of them. If we had a wand and we could wave our magic wand, and all of a sudden the English orthography became much more transparent, what would the impact be? What would that do, in terms of learning rates and how people view the language?
The impact would be huge. It would benefit everyone, not just the kids who fall below grade level and those who are truly illiterate or semi-literate. It's going to lift everybody up. The struggling reader, the average child, and even the child that's well above the others. It's going to lift everybody up because they're going to start learning. They're going to be able to read and learn and enjoy their reading independently, as is the case in other transparent regular orthographies where they have these clear one-on-one connections between letters and sounds that make the job of the teacher, make the job of the kids so much easier. They're going to be able to start learning and enjoying themselves much, much earlier. So it's like it's going to lift everyone up. And that's really quite mind-blowing, because it changes the whole concept of grade level. See, we often compare kids, okay, they're reading below grade level. What I expect would happen with your magic wand there is it's going to change the whole concept of grade level. So grade level that used to be grade 1 level, where the average child is making 2 out of 3 errors on a page or a list of words for English compared to 95% accuracy for German, say, that child is going to be in a completely different place, or that grade level is going to go up to what used to be grade 2 or grade 3. So it's lifting the whole nation up, if you like.
Wow. So you're saying that the standards would have to change even.
Yeah, and this is, it's not entirely speculation. We know that this is what is happening in countries where they have this very simple, regular, transparent orthographies, like Spain, like Germany. Finland is a champion, you know, they're absolutely one-on-one. Regular Hebrew with its diacritical system. It's often said by teachers that kids don't need a whole year to learn to read. They only need the first semester of school till the Hanukkah holidays, which is December. They only need a few months to learn to read. When you have a regular system, it really does change the face of learning to read and instruction. So yeah, we're talking about a potential revolution here. The orthography's got to help the beginner by making it possible to decode and read independently all these new words. But it has to do something else. It has to make it possible for the child to become a skilled reader. And what does the skilled reader do? The skilled reader picks up words without having to go letter by letter in decoding. And the skilled reader does this at a remarkable speed, 4 or 5 words in a second. And that is really the key to real reading, to reading comprehension, and to literacy, because it's not only fast, it's easy, it's effortless. The skilled reader can read without investing much effort at all. And that means that you can start thinking about the meaning and enjoy what you're reading and comprehend what you're reading, because you're not stuck trying to decode all these words.
You've become familiar with TIPS over these past few years. Can you describe it for our audience?
TIPS is a set of marks that's added to the letters, and they make it possible for a child to know whether it's this sound or that sound. And when you put a mark, a little symbol over a letter to say it's this sound and not that sound, it makes the connection between the letter and the sound quite unambiguous. But the beauty is, it doesn't change the spelling of the word. TIPS doesn't do that. It retains what is one of the greatest qualities of English spelling, which is the spelling that helps you connect letters to meaning as well as letters to sound. And TIPS makes the letter-sound relationships easy, straightforward, one-to-one, just like other orthographies that we call them transparent, where kids can learn to read within the first year even faster. So it makes the learning of English much, much quicker. But it also does another thing. It doesn't stop children getting to the rapid, skilled word recognition that they need to become good comprehenders and lovers of reading, because it's enjoyable, it's effortless, it's fast. We can read for hours without, get lost in a book. And TIPS does both those things. It helps the learner and get the learner towards skilled, effortless word recognition, which of course is a prerequisite for comprehension.
Would you foresee any challenges after a child has reached a certain level of reading proficiency, taking those marks off, or any thoughts related to that question or concern?
That is a very understandable concern. I've studied this here with Hebrew and Arabic diacritics. What happens with these diacritical systems is they're dropped out once kids get to a certain level of the coding ability. So you can remove them, delete them, omit them gradually or completely, but we know kids make that transition very easily. In fact, we think it's because the diacritics become redundant. They become superfluous. The diacritics are no longer needed. So when they drop out, the kids are having no problem. At least that's what we see with these other diacritical systems around the world.
We have some struggling readers that have more, let's call it physical challenges, whether that's dyslexia or other kinds of learning disabilities. What would you think about the impact on tips for those types of readers? And what would you anticipate the responses based on the research?
Dyslexics' main problem is a problem not so much with visual perception, but with language. And it's one specific part of language that we call phonology. Phonology is that part of language which deals with the sounds of language and how they go together to make words, okay? And children who are dyslexic, we know as a group, many, indeed most of them have this phonological problems with the sounds of language. And we know that there's a tremendous amount of research that supports that idea. So you're having a child with these problems with the sounds of language, and then you try to teach them the sounds of letters, but English makes that 10 times harder. So a system like TIPS, a diacritical system which makes those connections much simpler, much clearer, much more unambiguous, one-on-one, is going to make it so much easier, I would expect, for the dyslexic who has these problems with the sound of language.
Well, David, thanks so much for the time this morning, for your thoughts. We really appreciate the time and your kind words about the program. So look forward to catching up again soon.
Okay. And we'll see you soon in New York City.